up just for a second because I did those in the wrong order. So people can pause and read. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of VCCLive. This is episode 3. My name is Kevin Skipper with Vaping Convention Circuit. Co-hosts are Jay DeLuca with Hingham Hill and Nick Green of GrimGreen.com. This week we are going to be talking about, let me just give you a little bit of a layout for the show. And if anyone has any questions or anything, comments, put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring those. And Jay, you can bring them up to us and we'll try to get those answered before we end it.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to be talking about, is Unity a pipe dream? And after that, we're going to cover a little bit more about the FDA deeming regulations aftermath. Everyone that by this point knows the who, what, when, and where, and all that stuff, and how much. But I haven't really heard a whole lot of emphasis on the aftermath if we do not get an injunction from the courts, and if we do not change the predicate date. Then what? And of course, there are no hard and fast numbers. It's just going to be my best guess based on information that I was able to compile. So with that said, hope everyone had a great week this week, continuing to move forward on making sure that vaping stays around forever in the United States. Jay, anything going on mass this week?
No, it's really wait and see at this point in mass. I think I touched on it a little bit last week, but the Senate bill, we have word that the Senate bill that was going through that would have labeled vapor products as tobacco at the state level is going to be basically gutted and restarted on the House side. And we had to sit down with the public health chair of the House, and she assured us that she doesn't have any intentions of adding taxes. She's open to classifying vapor products separately. However, they are going to increase the age to 21, but they are including a grandfather clause in that. And it's going to be a slow mover. I wouldn't anticipate that anything would be done before the end of this year.
Well, with everything else going on, I guess it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Nick, anything going on this week for you?
For me, no, nothing going on this week. I'm actually going to be taking next week off, completely unplugging. I'm going to go visit my family back in Nevada because I moved away 2 years ago to Southern California, and I haven't gone and visited my mom in almost 2 years, which is unforgivable. So I'm going back home to visit my family next week, and that's all I've been honestly looking forward to. I just had Dwayne Omboyosi down from Orange County to be on our podcast, to be on mine and Ruby Roo's podcast. We talked a lot about everything that's going on in California. He works for Local Vape, and Local Vape is officially moving out of the state to Vegas. They're moving to Nevada to run their business, and it was confusing to me at first. I was like, well, it's not going to be that bad in California for business owners. There's going to be extra fees and extra taxes, and you could still function as a vape business in California. But he made a great point that I had never thought about before, is that California is using those tax dollars that they're getting from vape companies in campaigns against vape companies.
Right.
So basically, they're using their tax dollars against them, and that's why Local Vape doesn't want to give California the tax dollars to use against vaping. And I was like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot more of that over the coming months.
wow, it just blew my mind.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, I think California is going to get exactly what they wanted. They're going to get rid of the vape companies, and other states are going to be fighting to pick them up. I have a feeling, any state that, wants good business in their state and job creation and tax revenue.
Lots of tax revenue.
Right. I think I just missed a call back, by the way. I had put a call on to Bonnie Herzog this morning, Wells Fargo senior financial analyst who does a lot of prospecting and stuff on the vaping industry. And I'm pretty sure she just called me back, but we're already live. So sorry about that, Bonnie Herzog. I'll have to check the voicemail, and she'll probably give me some of the information that I was looking for after the fact. And if that's the case, just a program update too. I know next week Nick said he's going to be out. I'm also going to be out of town on Friday, so we're probably not going to have a live show next week. I won't be back until the following Monday night. or Monday afternoon. So next Friday there will not be a VCCLive if you're watching this or listening on the
I'm
replay.
actually going to be in Florida the second half of June on a business trip. So
Oh, okay.
that may cut into 3 shows for me. So I might not see you guys again for 4 weeks.
Holy cow. It'll be
Or
VCC.
maybe I can call in from down there.
Yeah, maybe. Where are you going to be at in Florida?
We're going to spend a week in Orlando, and then we're going back to LJ's country to visit with the LJ Smoke Shop.
Well, we have electricity internet here in Florida, so it's a fairly new innovation in the state, but we're good to go, I think, if you want to jump on.
Yeah, we'll see.
So right after the intro, I had, just a little while ago, I had a message from Alex at CASA, and he wanted me to make sure that I reiterated this today. We mentioned it briefly, I think, in episode 1 when we were talking about the deeming regulations, and we mentioned about the child-resistant caps becoming a law, but we didn't mention it by name, and we certainly didn't, specify exactly what he told me. So I'm just going to flip over here real quick and see if I can find this. So this is the Child Nicotine Poisoning Prevention Act of 2015. And basically what it says is that manufacturers of liquid nicotine products have to comply with child-resistant standards and federal acquisition regulations, or better known as FARs. And I'll post a link to this in the YouTube video comment section if anyone wants to read it. It's not very long, but it does give specific information. This part is not very long, but the parts that it references are very long. So if you go read the FARs, it's a lot of detailed information. So instead of me trying to explain to you exactly everything in it, because we only have an hour show here, I'm going to flip over here to what did CASA say. So this is from their upcoming newsletter. The Child Nicotine Poisoning Prevention Act of 2015, which takes effect on July 26, 2016, which is in just about a month and a half. Consumers and retailers need to understand that there are specific testing protocols which are described in Title 16 CFR, not FAR. I was thinking of something else when I used to work in federal marketing. The CFRs, not FARs. Section 17.20. Although child-resistant packaging exists in other parts of the world, it may not meet U.S. federal guidelines. In order to sell bottled e-liquid after July 26, 2016, it must be sold in child-resistant packaging that is compliant with U.S. Code of Federal Regulations, CFR. Okay, so where did I have that at? Yeah, here. There's a lot of, and it says here specifically, any nicotine provided in a liquid nicotine container sold, offered for sale, manufactured for sale, distributed in commerce, or imported into the United States shall be packaged in accordance with standards provided in Section 1700.15 of Title 16 CFR. So that means any e-liquid brought in from anywhere in the world or manufactured in the United States. And that in and of itself may be a huge problem for a lot of manufacturers. Not only, we have the August 8th deadline, of course, and we have everything going on with the FDA, and then states have their own things going on. This, I don't think, is something, this is something that I have supported. I mean, I didn't see a problem with it anyway, child-resistant packaging. I just don't know that every manufacturer out there, and I think this is what they were trying to get, what Alex was trying to get across is, don't forget, guys, this is 6 weeks away.
Right. And I guess I can speak a little bit to how this manifests in the real world, because I've already been kind of dealing with this, because child-resistant packaging, referring to that compliance initiative, is already law in Massachusetts. So what happens is your e-liquid or your e-bottle distributors, so your e-liquid bottle distributors, what they have to do is they have to have the manufacturer or they themselves put their bottles through rigorous testing. They would then provide me, the bottle purchaser, with a certificate of compliance. Originally, probably 6 months to a year, probably 6 months ago, they would actually provide me with the entire test protocol as well as the certification. So test protocol, test results, certification. But now they're just providing us with a certificate of compliance, and apparently that's enough to comply with the law. They're stating that yes, these bottles meet this federal standard. That's it. So what I do is I provide those certifications to the shops that I sell to, if they request it. So it's really not too much. It looks like most of the major bottle distributors are complying. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal functionally at this point.
Yeah.
What does it mean though for shops that produce their own e-liquid?
They would have to do the same thing. Every bottle that they use, every different size bottle that they use, they would have to have a certificate of compliance from the people that they are buying the bottles from. There's no case law at this point. Nobody's been dinged for it, so it's tough to say.
Is it going to be the same? Do you know? I don't know, so that's why I'm asking. Maybe you might know more as an e-liquid manufacturer. Who's going to enforce it? Local health departments again? They're going to come in and do random checks and say, "Where's your certificate?"
That's how it works. That's how it works in Massachusetts. We haven't been looking at FDA enforcement, yet, so we don't really know what that's going to look like. But at the Massachusetts, at the state level, yes, it would be local municipal, tobacco boards, that kind of thing. I think for the most part, and this is just me speaking from my gut, I think that as long as they come in and they take a look at your bottles and see that they're childproof and or tamper evident, I think they're just going to walk away, unless you're under the microscope for some reason. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we put it out there. So July 26th, 2016. If you're not compliant, get there. You have about 6 weeks. So the main part of the first half of the discussion today that I wanted to talk about was is Unity a pipe dream? So what I mean by that, excuse me one second. Talking too much and it's making my throat scratchy. Is Unity a pipe dream? Everyone, every day I see constantly, and I've been less active this week on social media. I've been taking more of a sit back and watch and read approach than I have been a proactive posting approach. But it seems like everyone in one side of their mouth is saying Unity, 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 and out of the other side of their mouth is saying something divisive or doing something divisive. How do we achieve unity if we can't even get through 2 sentences without saying something negative about a group, a person? I mean, it boggles my mind that how this is going to be possible. And one of the things I saw, I'm not overly familiar with the VTA. I am familiar with Tony Abboud. I've talked to him a few times. He's a legislative director, and I do think that their strategy and what they're doing is a good thing. But I did see this floating around social media, and I didn't crop the guy's name out because he put it out there for the public to see. So it's on a group. So ask yourselves, are you okay with a vaping advocacy group being run by Big Tobacco? And then it's got basically a whole flyer here describing how, in their opinion, everyone involved in VTA is somehow connected to Big Tobacco. And I couldn't get a clear image of it. It's kind of grainy. It's a screenshot of a screenshot of a screenshot, probably. But anyway, the groups that are working on our behalf, I don't think, and I certainly hope that all of them are doing it for altruistic means, which is to save vaping and to eliminate combustible tobacco. What do you guys think of that? I mean, how do you think unity is achievable?
In absolute terms, no. It's never been achievable in any industry, in any community. You cannot have 100% unity. What you can have is a consensus, a general consensus, and that's going to be a constant tug of war in a young industry such as ours until a standout actually starts achieving what they can. You see this, and not to get political, but you still see this in the gun industry, in the gun advocacy wing, Second Amendment advocacy wing. The NRA is the clear standout, but there are still other organizations that people choose to join instead of the NRA, for whatever reason. So you're always going to have that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as the overall as long as the overall goal is the same, which is to save vaping. And believe me, I understand, that people are confused and wondering about this VTA organization. I felt the same way when Safada first started entering the community. They'd been around for a couple of years before they really even started courting the community. And, when they first started coming around, I looked at their website and their last press release was from like a year before. So they weren't doing anything. And then all of a sudden they wanted everybody to join and give them money. So I definitely.
This was a couple years ago you're talking about, right?
Yeah, this was a couple of years ago. So I definitely understand, the apprehension on what the VTA is, but I would implore people to find out. If you're confused, if you don't know, find out.
Well, that goes. I mean, Nick, you did a vlog last week. It was part of your vlog where you talked about your apprehension of what the VTA is. I'm not sure if that's just something that hit you while you were driving. You thought, what, I want to talk about this. So if you think if you think that, and then other people think that, but the difference between you and other people are you have a couple hundred, 280,000 subscribers, I think, on YouTube. So.
Sure.
Something like that, people will say, wow, if Nick is really has a gut feeling that there's something wrong with the VTA, then maybe there is. And what do you think about reviewers who have a large outreach and basically making statements like that? What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I get torn back and forth a lot. Ultimately, I think if you have a YouTube or a large reach, it's your YouTube. Ultimately, you can say your feelings. You can say whatever you're thinking. I had it was like 4 minutes of talking, I think, in the car, and that was literally something that just popped into my head as I was driving in the car. And watching it back, I could see how people would be upset about it. But I think my ultimate goal was to get people to look at it for themselves. As far as, I wasn't saying don't trust the VTA. I was saying,
right.
What do you guys think about the VTA? I haven't looked into it. Have you looked into it? This is something we should be looking into. And it's not, it wasn't my intention to single out the VTA. I think we need to hold each other and everybody accountable. You know what I mean? And, like you were saying, complete unity is not going to be a thing. There's people who dislike CASA for whatever reason. There's
right.
people who really dislike not blowing smoke. There's people who dislike me. There's people who saw that video and went, fuck that guy. There's people who just don't like other people. And so I think what I was trying to say in that video is to be a little bit, it's okay to be a little bit skeptical, but on the same hand, you have to look into something for yourself. If you're skeptical, then look into it. And
but I think a lot of YouTube reviewers don't. The people who are watching their videos, and this is no offense to them, but they're going to take what you have to say to heart. They're not going to do any extra research. They're going to take what you said in that 4-minute clip and believe it for fact. And I think that if you do find, let's say for instance, this weekend you do a little bit of research and you find out what the VTA is really all about, and that you decide that their strategy is a good one and that you support it. So we've asked this about the FDA. If they had scientific evidence to prove that vaping was 95% plus and they actually accepted it because there is evidence out there, would they retract their deeming regulations and stuff? Would you be willing to say, I've looked at it and this is my conclusion now?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, that's what you do. That's what you do, especially, I mean, I know this isn't science, but especially in science, when you have a theory and your evidence changes, your theory changes as well. So that's, yeah, of course.
Okay.
And the only reason I didn't, like I said, when I was driving in the car, that was just something that was off the top of my head. And the only reason that I was driving in a car, so I couldn't research it at that time when I was talking.
Yeah, it was a stream of thought video. I mean,
it was just a stream of thought video.
Well, and this goes back to a point that Jay was talking about earlier with gun advocacy.
Yeah.
And this is a point that I wrote down. Why is saving an industry such big business? Let that sink in for a second. Saving an industry, the NRA probably takes in millions of dollars a year. Millions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure their board is paying themselves a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're seeing the same trend happening in vaping with And why?
And an interesting side note on the NRA, I'm not a member, by the way, because
I'm a life
have
member.
done things recently that I don't agree with. But they not only represent firearm owners, but also manufacturers, all in one
Right.
organization. And it's kind of hard to argue that they haven't been successful at what they've attempted to do. So.
Yeah. So anyway, it's big business saving industries, man. A lot of money can be made, and I just want to make sure that we're putting it in the right spot, and that the people that we're trusting with the money is that we're putting in for membership dues or whatever as an industry are being used wisely, I guess, and that they're going to actually accomplish something with those monies. Because unlike the NRA, they have a Second Amendment to fall back on every time, and that's a very solid, very well-founded legal argument. We don't. We have nothing to fall back on.
I guess that's arguable, but it costs a lot of money to
get to that point. They've been doing it for not they, but people in the United States have been arguing gun rights for 200 plus years, 250 years or whatever. We've been around for 7, 8, 9.
But you could look at interstate commerce. There's all sorts of stuff that you could look at.
There is. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time to get there, both of which we don't have. So
millions to get to the Supreme Court. Millions.
Yes, if they even hear it.
Yeah.
So we're about 25 minutes in, and any final thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know. It's just something that bothers me more and more the further we go along about this whole unification thing and everyone working together and getting along and it being. I wish it would work that way. I just don't see it happening. And
I mean, and the latest manifestation, this whole VTA thing is simply the latest manifestation of that. And I certainly don't blame Nick 100% for people starting to have opinions one way or the other. This stuff was going on as soon as the VTA formed. And I'm not in bed with either SFATA or the VTA, but the VTA was a split off from SFATA.
They were, yeah.
So it's not like these guys are just brand new to the scene. I think a lot of the faces that they chose to put forth are new to the scene.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Everyone that you saw on that list, some of them may or may not have worked for tobacco companies before, but again, who better to bring over to the side of vaping than someone who's worked in an industry that understands how it is at the federal government level. I think it's a good thing to bring over. Who was it? Enjoy, I think a couple of years ago, hired one of their top executives, came from a big tobacco company, and that's because, was it former U.S. Surgeon General? But anyway, something like that. He was some higher up person who understood the way tobacco products are treated in the United States and how legislation works. I think that's a smart move, in my opinion, to do that.
It's not an identical industry, but it's the closest one we have.
Unfortunately, yes.
It's a good thing to get people with experience in those other industries because, vaping's only been around for a few years.
Yeah, but again, I mean, so I guess ultimately the point is unity is not going to be achievable, but for people out there who are making these images and sharing them around, you are doing no good. I promise you that.
Yeah.
You're doing no good. So stop. I don't even know who created that image or where the other images came from.
No, well, they didn't put their name on it.
No, right. So there again, why are you sharing it? But stop doing stupid shit like that. All you're doing is making it worse for the advocates who are trying to save vaping.
Right.
That's
to their credit, a lot of the groups have actually banned, posts like that in their groups, no matter which the group is, whether it's CASA or not blowing smoke, they've all kind of policed it because it wasn't serving any purpose. All
right. Well, I guess we'll move on from that. It sucks that it's not going to be something that's going to be, I don't think, achievable 100%, but maybe we can have enough unity, just enough to do what we need to do. Mm-hmm. We've talked, and everyone's been talking for the past almost month now, 3.5 weeks, about the FDA deeming regulations. We know what now, we know when now, but I haven't heard a whole lot of discussion about what the actual aftermath is going to be. Everyone says, yes, it's going to decimate the industry, and 99+% of vaping businesses are going to be gone. I don't know that, and I've seen the FDA's market analysis or whatever, and it's complete bullshit. I don't know where they got the information from, but it's not, in my opinion, accurate. So I just put together some quick numbers, and one of the reasons I was trying to give Bonnie Herzog a call with Wells Fargo is because she does a lot of work in projections for the e-cig industry, and I don't know where she tallies her data from, but I want to show you this really quickly here, and we're also going to talk a little bit more. I put together a really quick slide. So this says, this is by Bonnie Herzog, Senior Analyst for Wells Fargo Securities. Tobacco, negative reaction to potential release of the final deeming e-cig regs is overdone. Buy on weakness. So she's talking about tobacco stocks, basically. But I've highlighted a section here, and I'm going to read it because we do have the podcast version of this, so people can't see it. But it says, overall, it appears there's concern with potential headline risk from the long overdue final deeming e-cig regulations, which are speculated to be released imminently. In our opinion, this reaction is overdone, and we encourage investors to take advantage of the weakness and buy the stocks. She's talking about tobacco stocks. As a reminder, regulation of the e-cig/vapor industry is broadly positive for the big tobacco manufacturers since it will increase the barriers to entry and likely entrench them even further. So she's saying that the FDA deeming regulations, as we all know, but this is in writing from a senior analyst at Wells Fargo, is good for big tobacco. Mm-hmm. The key concern in our mind is if the final regs stifle or restrict innovation, which would be an overall negative for the industry and public health. So that's her key concern is that these regulations will stifle or restrict innovation and be a negative impact on public health. We've long believed innovation is crucial for the long-term success of this category. So, this coming from someone who deals with these numbers on a daily basis. The FDA deeming regulations are good for big tobacco. Yeah. They will stifle or restrict innovation, which would be an overall negative for the vaping industry and public health. What do you think about that, guys?
It's common sense to anybody who follows the industry. Obviously the three of us included. And her goal here is to make her readers money. That's it. I mean, that's what she's doing. She did kind of throw us a bone with a bit of a judgment call on what these regs actually mean, to smokers. But yeah, she did her job. She did it well, and she stated exactly what we all knew.
Yeah, the FDA deeming regulations are a good thing for big tobacco. Their stocks are weak. They're going to get better as soon as 99% of the industry is eliminated, so buy them.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so I put together a little PowerPoint slide here, and again, I'm going to point this out at the bottom. These are not official numbers. These are for demonstrative purposes only of the potential economic and demographic ramifications of the FDA deeming regulations, RE, the vaping industry in America, okay? And these are, again, just based on what I was able to find. This is not official. Approximately 20,000 vaping industry businesses in the USA. Let's say they're an average of 5 to 10 per business. I know there are some with a lot more, but there also are some shops that have 1 or 2. So if you were to employees, if you were to add all those up and divide it, I'm guessing it would probably be an average of 5 to 10 employees per business. That would be roughly 100 to 200,000 jobs lost over the next couple years, because there will be no, in my opinion, substantial equivalence approved. There will be no PMTA approved, in my opinion, for 99+% of the industry. That alone is scary. 100 to 200,000 jobs lost from an industry that has created them out of thin air over the last 3 to 5 years. Approximately $1 billion in sales from vape shops per year. This is just brick and mortars, and then another $2 to $4 billion from non-brick and mortar vape shops. This is C-stores, online. So that if we're looking just at the sales from brick and mortar vape shops, let's say there's an average of 8% sales tax collected. I don't know what all states are. Florida's 7, some states are 8, some are 12. But that's roughly $80 million per year lost sales tax revenue for the states every single year. That's just from brick and mortars. That doesn't include, again, the C-store sales, the online sales and stuff like that where people are collecting sales tax. And then, of course, we're going to lose millions. I don't even know how to calculate that, but employee payroll taxes, which go to the federal government, I would say tens or hundreds of millions of dollars paid every year by employers in the vaping industry over the last couple of years, and health insurance benefits lost by the employees who will no longer have jobs. Commercial lease defaults and non-renewals. So after 2008, there was, let me go back to our screen. After 2008, there was an influx or an outflux, I don't know how you would say that, of businesses from commercial strip malls, from commercial buildings across the United States. Some towns were looking pretty vacant. Along comes the vapor industry, and people are living the American dream and starting businesses and starting to lease these commercial spaces and expanding from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 stores, and they're paying their rents, and that's good for the overall local and state economy. What happens when these businesses have to close down? They're going to go right back to being vacant. I think we're going to see an increase in foreclosure, especially on the commercial level. And I was a circuit civil mediator for 4 years before getting into this, and I did primarily residential foreclosure mediations. But I can tell you this: when companies can't pay their bills or go out of business, the last thing they're concerned about is whether or not they're going to renew a lease or default on it. And when you get people starting to move out of these commercial strip malls and commercial businesses, buildings, and they can't afford to pay their mortgage on it, it's going to cause, in my opinion, a spike in foreclosures at the commercial level. And my main question is, and again, this is one of the reasons why I say, before I say my main question is, one of the reasons why I say we need to grow as big as possible over the next couple of years, because it's going to be much, much harder to eliminate an industry that's twice or 3 times the size, if we can do that over the next couple of years, than it is to eliminate even where we're at right now. So if we keep expanding and then you go in and you even have more ammunition to tell your elected officials, look, at the time it would have been devastating, but we've grown now. We're double the size we were in 2016. The industry is. We're not going to lose 200,000 jobs now. We're going to lose 400. We're going to have millions and millions and millions of commercial space vacated, leases defaulted on. Anyway, what do you guys think of that? Do you think these numbers are close? I realize that none of us are analysts, but this is just based on what I've been able to see. I don't know that the FDA gives a shit or has true knowledge of what they're doing.
I think the numbers are close. It's tough because it's such a fast-moving target. I mean, every week we have at least one new vape shop opening in Massachusetts every month, or every week. So those are tough numbers to pin down, but I think that's as close as you're going to find, in a grassroots industry such as this. And I can say that, telling individual vaping stories is nice and all for politicians, but their ears really pick up when you start throwing those kinds of numbers at them.
Right.
So, the more you can do that, obviously you can include your personal story. They will listen, but they're really interested in hearing about the numbers, because once unemployment starts to spike, once shops start to close down, that's when the media is going to start, asking questions.
Yeah, but the sad part about it is by the time we get to that point, it's going to be irreversible.
It's already too late.
It's already too late. I mean, there's no way that someone who's, say 6 months from now, all these businesses are going out and they're like, holy shit, what do we do? We're going to reverse this trend. Those people aren't in a financial position to come back and rebuild their business.
But if we can give those politicians those numbers ahead of time so that they can see what the possibility is, that's my point.
Right. This is not a damage this is a damage that is permanent. This is permanent damage. As it happens, there's no rebuilding from it. There's no repairing from it. Nick, what do you think? You're seeing kind of some of this in California with I think we're going to see an exodus of businesses leaving California. Just because of California, nothing to do with the FDA.
Yeah, a lot of businesses leaving California, a lot of shops closing down. There's been a couple vape shops in San Diego that have shut down recently out of just nothing but fear. They're just scared, and they're like, I better pull out now and get a backup plan in place before things get really bad. And I completely agree with you, Kevin, on what you said earlier about growing our numbers. It's one of the reasons why I'm still doing videos, because I want to have as many vapors as possible. It's one of the reasons I'm still going to events and shows, is because we need to grow. Like you said, we need to grow and grow and grow as big as we can within the next 2 years, so that our numbers double and triple. And
Right.
there are just so many of us that it can't be ignored. The vapor industry is still, I mean, so unbelievably in our infancy that our numbers, while it might seem like we have this big community, is still really, really small. It's a small
Well,
little
yeah,
thing.
it was 4 to 8 million. I think 4 to 8 million is the range that I've heard of vapors in the United States. That still leaves roughly 40 million smokers, which is
Yeah, exactly.
it's a huge amount of people. I mean,
Yeah.
we need to have those people stop smoking and start vaping as soon as possible, and whatever we can do to achieve that, which is again why I'm not stopping the VCC events. We're going to keep doing exactly what we do. And my goal is to get smokers in the door and convert them. I don't know what our conversion rate is at an event. It's primarily vapor focused, and I'll admit that. But I'm definitely trying to get more companies on board that carry products that are geared towards smokers. So we can, and I definitely want more. If you're watching this, and I communicate this to the people who are coming to the events as well. If you're an e-liquid manufacturer, please bring some 12 and 18 with you. If you have 0s, 3s, and 6s, in my opinion, and I still vape 12 2.5 years later, they're not enough to get a smoker to stop smoking permanently. So we need to continue doing what we're doing, and we need to get a big chunk of that 40 million, which I don't think is going to be possible in 2 years, thanks FDA, but we need to get a big chunk of that, as big a chunk as we can over the next 2 years, converted from smokers to vapors, and make our voice so loud and our industry so large. We're never going to compete, no, not never. In the next couple of years, we're not going to compete with big tobacco. They're like $100 billion a year industry in the United States, $100 billion. So we're small potatoes compared to that. Does that mean we quit? No, it doesn't.
Nope. Nope. I agree with you.
So yeah. Also, too, one of the points I didn't put on the slide, but I think we're going to see a rise in smoking rates again, as well as it becomes harder and harder to get access to vapor products. We're going to see certainly a percentage of people who are vaping that have, and another thing, going back to what Nick was saying about the people in the community, not everyone is on social media or listening to this show or whatever. They're just vaping to not smoke, and they don't really get involved in it. I would say a great majority of people who are vaping right now are not involved in any Facebook groups or anything, like that. They just do it to not smoke. And when they don't have access to those products anymore, the innovation stops, and we have to go back to products that were on the market in 2007 and before. I remember vaping, and the first time I ever tried an e-cigarette was in 2011, I think, and it was terrible. And this is 4 years past the date where they're sending us back to. It leaked in my mouth. It was just a disgusting experience. And after a week, I was back to smoking a pack a day. That's how successful I was with my first attempt before we had next generation products out like the Egos and stuff like that. And the e-liquid, don't even get me started. It was horrible compared to what we have available now. So I think we're going to see a rise in smoking rates, and probably even among youth again as well, since everyone's so save the children. They're going to go right back to trying cigarettes, because no matter what you tell teenagers and youth to do, they're going to experiment. So when the product available to them to experiment with is cigarettes and not vape, they're going to smoke. And smokers are going to say, fuck all this hassle. It's easy for me to go anywhere I want to go and buy a pack of cigarettes. And that's what they're going to do, in my opinion. Yep. So that's probably the biggest. Forget the money part, which is huge. I know a lot of people in the vaping industry who do it full time, obviously. And it just makes me sick that they're going to lose jobs and probably houses, and their financial situation is going to go downward. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously we're going to have a black market. Again, I think that people
Yeah,
who are,
the black market thing, I mean, that will
we've
benefit
talked about
existing
that.
vapors,
Yeah,
certainly,
we've talked about
but,
that.
I think, we're not going to be able to entice a lot of smokers if
Well,
we're just, behaving in a
No.
black gray market.
Right. When you have a lethal product that delivers nicotine on the market, like cigarettes, it's available at every gas station, every convenience store, every supermarket. Why would you go through the pain in the ass of trying to get something else? You can just go down to Walgreens and buy a pack of smokes, or Publix, or whatever grocery store you have where you're at. I don't know.
Yeah. The black market's not going to be good for anybody but really hardcore vapors. I think there's a huge amount of vapors that wouldn't even be willing to put up with the black market.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Well, I'm far enough into it now that I can tell you this: I'm not going back to smoking. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not either. There's not a chance.
Not a
Okay.
chance in hell. I will find a way to vape, but that doesn't help 80% of vapors who are going to take the easy way out and go back to cigarettes, and the 40 million smokers who are still smoking cigarettes who aren't even going to try. So that's all I had mainly to cover. I wanted to kind of press home the point of the numbers that I don't know a whole lot of people are talking about, but it's going to be a much bigger impact than I think the FDA realizes, or maybe even people in the vaping industry realizes. It's easy to say, 100 to 200,000 people are going to lose their jobs. It's difficult to look at people who you employ or whatever and tell them, we're closing shop.
Yeah.
Sorry about you and your kids, and good luck finding a job in an already tough job market.
Mowgli, I'm sorry, Mowgli just said in chat that people are going to have to sell their knuckle lubricant.
My knuckles are good. You can't see them on the replay, but yeah, no dry knuckles here.
Too soon, Mogs, too soon.
Yeah, and speaking of any comments or questions or anything from the chat, I can't see it.
Actually,
so.
it's funny. Most of the questions were centered around all of the vitriol on VTA, but Dimitri's actually in the chat, and he did a good job jumping on him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dimitri had a video. The smoke-free radio. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it or not yet, Nick. But
I did.
What'd you think?
I listened to it. It was, it is what it is. It was Dimitri stating his point, and that's fine. That's what we're all doing. That's what we're all allowed to do. For the record, I don't believe Dimitri hates me. I certainly don't hate Dimitri. It was my intention. I talk about this on the Sunday, the next episode of our Culture of Clouds podcast. I talk about this a little bit as well. But it was my intention to make a response video. And then I decided not to do that. And I just messaged Dimitri on Facebook. And we went back and forth a little bit. And I was explaining some things and he was explaining some things. And, we kind of ended up on the same-ish page, you know what I mean? And I apologized and I said, I'm not trying to undermine what you're doing. I'm a skeptical person by nature, and I made it a point in my travel vlog to say that if the VTA has our best interests in mind as vapors, then I would welcome them with open arms. And as Julie from CASA said, it would be dumb not to use every weapon in our arsenal in this fight. So I'm certainly not going to write off an entire organization because I was skeptical at one point.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
well, I would like to see, maybe we can get, because you do have a huge following, and some of the other YouTube reviewers do as well. Maybe we can get something organized and between the people who do know what they're about, and then you guys can maybe, you don't have to come out and say pro everything, but maybe you can at least put out some facts and say, this is what we've learned.
Yeah.
And,
the bummer part in the vape industry, I'm sure this is not exclusive to the vapor industry, but within our community, there's a lot of strong personalities, I guess, is the best way to say it. And I can be friends with, whatever, YouTube reviewer A. Let's say it's Matt from Suck My Mod. I can be really good friends with him, and I can disagree with the way he views things or says things or the information he puts out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he's I'm not saying that this is true. I don't know where Matt stands on anything. But if he made a video and said, I don't trust CASA, I hate CASA, I don't trust VTA, I don't trust not blowing smoke, I would kind of go, Matt, like, what are you doing? And he's not going to change. People have a hard time changing and adjusting,
Right.
I guess, with new information and admitting that they could have been wrong about something. I have no problem admitting that I could have been wrong about something. But what happens is you get these strong personalities who are dead set in their ways, and they see that their way is the right way, and they want to convince people that their way is the right way, if that makes sense. It's just, circling around to the unity thing. There's too many strong personalities, I think, for all of us to be on the exact same page, but I think we can be on the same-ish page.
Well, I'm coming from a legal background. I was taught that everything is gray. There are no black and whites, but my personality is more of a black and white personality. And there is a right way to do things, and there is a wrong way to do things. The right way is going to be the right way, and the wrong way is going to be the wrong way. And that's
but even
just the way that
black and white.
I mean, there are some gray shades in the middle there of it, but the right way is the right way. And this is, again, what we talked about, kind of touched on briefly the last two episodes. When a strategy isn't working, you have to adapt and change your strategy. And I think that that's primarily what we need to be doing right now in the vaping industry, is coming up with a strategy that's the right way. And I think that what Dimitri and the VTA are doing for right now embodies that. I'm not saying that anyone else isn't either, because we're all working towards the same goal. But I think that a legislative and try saying that 5 times fast. A litigation and legislative strategy is the best, in my opinion, based on what I know about the law and politics. And I think it's a good thing. And the coalition lawsuit, or the right to be smoke-free lawsuit, is definitely handling the litigation aspect of it. And there are going to be other companies that join in and do their own thing, which, I don't know if that's good or bad, but the industry, quote unquote, if you're in the industry and you haven't heard about the Right to Be Smoke-Free Coalition and the lawsuit that they're getting together, make sure you visit their website, Google Right to Be Smoke-Free. They definitely need the funds to continue that, but that's just a part of the strategy. The other part of the strategy is we have to change federal legislation. Otherwise, this is never going away. And even if we do change federal legislation, that's not to say that it can't change under some other administration in the future. But for right now, what we have to do is keep the vaping industry here to have something to save. And so if we can all get to that point, I think that that's a good thing. And what do you guys... I feel like I've talked a lot this episode. I want you guys to say something.
That's okay. You're the host.
You're allowed.
We're all the hosts. We're co-hosting.
I was
you guys...
just worried that my mic isn't working correctly. We'll have that worked out by next week.
I can hear you fine. You're good.
Yeah, I think I think our mixers are fighting. I think that's what's going on. But I would just say that it's good to have inside industry voices, reviewers, advocates, and that kind of thing. But that's not what it's going to take to win the fight at this point. You need to expect to see faces that you're not used to seeing. People who don't even necessarily vape. Because in order to make this fight successful, we need to lean on lobbyists. I know that's a dirty word, but you got to get used to seeing these guys speaking to us. And the same thing with lawyers. You're going to need to, these people are going to become familiar faces. So give them a little bit of, certainly a little bit of scrutiny is fine. We don't want to trust everybody just on their face, but I think most of these folks are in it for the right reasons. They want to help us. They have experience in very similar industries. So why not give them a chance? Just get used to seeing them around.
Yeah.
I find it funny how, again, coming from the legal background, how everyone distrusts lawyers and everyone makes lawyer jokes and says everything, about the legal industry until you need one. And then it's no laughing matter and you're looking for the best one. Yeah. So keep that in mind. I think we have a great, I say we, I mean the industry. I haven't yet joined the Right to Be Smoke-Free lawsuit, but I do plan to from VCC's perspective in the near future, hopefully. And I think that the Keller and Heckman group have been in this, they've been around this for the last several years. They know probably more about it than any other law firm. And I think that Azim Chowdhury and those guys are doing the guys and gals at their firm are doing a great job. So, yeah, anyway, right to be smoke free. When everyone in the industry, that's the litigation attack at this point, is our right to be smoke free approach. And yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
I agree.
Well, there is a question in chat that just came
Sure.
up. Are there any updates on how Cole Bishop and HR 2058 are doing?
I have not heard anything this past week. That's not to say that there hasn't been any movement on them, but I know for a fact that when there is, the advocacy organizations will be putting out calls to action and letting people know when and who to contact regarding certainly Cole Bishop. HR 2058, again, is it continuing to get co-sponsors? Probably, but we've discussed that to death. It's not going to be a law. Cole Bishop itself will be the next thing that is. When is it moving again? We're not sure, but as soon as that information's out, we'll post it up on our page. But we don't have the following nearly that some of the advocacy organizations do, and they'll be issuing calls to action for what and who to contact when it's the time to do that. Any other questions you saw there, Jay?
That's
Pretty much it.
The recent ones.
Okay. So if you have any final thoughts, I have just one very short one, not like last week, which was 2 paragraphs, but you guys can. So next week we're not going to be around. 2 of us will be traveling, and Jay will be gone after that, but we'll get it figured out. Hopefully we can be back in 2 weeks with another live show. At the very least, it'll probably be Nick and I, since he'll be back from travels and I'll be back from travels. I just want to end with this. I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm sure everyone at this point have seen the original Jurassic Park, the part where they make the dinosaurs from the DNA, and Jeff Goldblum has a really good quote from that, and he says, just because you can doesn't mean you should, or something to that effect. And I think that fits appropriately with what the FDA is doing, without taking into account the full financial impact and the lives that they're going to harm, not just because of vaping, but because of the jobs that are going to be lost and the children whose parents are going to be jobless and low income from good paying jobs in the vaping industry. Did they ever stop to think if they should? Not can you, but should you? So anyway, I want to end it on that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jay and Nick, for joining me this week. It is we're a few minutes early, but that's okay. We'll work on getting some of the links posted in the replay and the titles and stuff edited. Certainly, we welcome you to join the Facebook page, and that will be in the description under the video on YouTube as well. Share it, like it, subscribe. Make sure we get this information out there. And remember, you don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. Get involved.
Yes. Good.